I'm Andrew Morris, and this is 700 Days to Live, your passport to curiosity, big ideas, and global citizenship in a world that won't stop changing. Let's tackle another of my personal manifestos. I added 9 of these to the website, but there are more waiting to be born as reality continues to unfurl before us all. So I think that inside every human being, there's a story waiting to be told. Because at our core, we are meaning-making creatures. Our memories, struggles, hopes, and quiet triumphs shape a narrative that is uniquely ours, even if it never finds its way into words. The story might be spoken aloud, written down, painted, or simply carried within, but it's always there, forming the thread of identity that connects us to others and to ourselves. Now, it's true that some people may be more gifted than others at telling those stories. We've all sat glassy-eyed while acquaintances insist on going into every detail of every travel photo, or lost the will to live as someone begins a story. Now, last Monday, or was it Tuesday? No, it must have been Monday because that's the day Rita came to clean. But that doesn't mean it isn't there. I once set myself the personal challenge of interviewing a postman about his job. It wasn't hard. All I had to do was ask about the joys, the gripes, the work issues, the challenges and workarounds. Usually, Brian was a doer, rather uncommunicative man, but pressed the right buttons and he sparked into life, becoming quite an animated raconteur. It's about asking the right questions and listening actively to the answers. And those in turn are about curiosity. So are we curious enough about our families, our neighbors, our friends? And I don't mean gossip. Or are we lost in our screens looking for the next dopamine hit? Sometimes a tiny story can tell us so much. The other day, while visiting my mum in her residence, in her tiny room, a pitiable contrast to the beautiful magazine cover homes she always created, she told me of having visited one day a friend of her late father's as she wanted some information. Now, this friend had been a drinking buddy of her father, Tregenna, for 40 years. But when he met Mum, he looked a bit blank and said, "Tregenna never told me he had a daughter." Wow. In that story, there is just so much dying to be unpacked. What kind of man Tregenna was? What did they talk about all those years? How my mum must have felt. That's an entire novel right there. If only I had the talent to write one. But I don't. And no, that's not fishing for compliments. I know my strengths as a writer, and they're best confined to short essays like this. If I felt I could write a novel, you could bet your bottom euro I'd have done one by now. Zooming out a little bit, we understand that every human life is a weave of experiences, pain, joy, failure, and longing that carries the potential to resonate with others. Many of these stories remain unspoken, not because they lack value, but because people fear that they will not be understood or that their telling is too ordinary. Yet it's often the very ordinariness of lived moments that holds the deepest truths. Sharing a personal story affirms our existence. To tell one story is to say, I have lived and this mattered. In being spoken aloud, a story transforms from an internal weight into a bridge of connection, bringing empathy, wisdom, or inspiration to others. Even silence itself can be a story, waiting for the right listener or moment to draw it into the light. Some stories remain private, a secret mythology each person carries that quietly shapes decisions and identity. Others demand release, the poem written at midnight, the confession to a trusted friend, the memoir of survival. Storytelling is not only an act of self-expression, but also a search for belonging. For in telling our stories, we find our place within the wider fabric of humanity. Could you play a part in helping someone else's story see the light of day? My feeling is that the moment you do so, you gain extra insight into the story that you carry within yourself. You know, I really enjoy sharing these experiences with you. I've been around the world a few times, both literally and metaphorically. And now I'm inviting all of you to explore it with me as part of a global community with no age, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, or culture barriers. Join the journey to a world without borders at 700 Days to Live on social media and at 700daystoLive.com. If you want the inside scoop, sign up to our circle group either in the bio below or in the comments. And talking of comments, I'd love to hear what you have to say or if you have a similar journey to share.